Hey Bob, good to see you, man. I've got to do another TikTok. I'll probably today's getting busy. Today is a busy day. I won't be able to do a Zoom today yet, so we'll get there. At some point, I want to do a Zoom with as many people that can log in, and just say hey, basically. One giant Zoom lesson. I don't think that would work. A clinic. Sequence, what's going on? Yeah, you're on time. I haven't really taught anything yet. One thing I'm just noticing about these triads too, they're a great kind of a reset. Oh, I can move this up like this. Like if you're in the middle, you know, you're soloing or, you know, improvising in this progression, for example. You know, when you're kind of like at a loss for ideas, or you're kind of in a moment where you can't, you just like, or you painted yourself in a corner or whatever, just grab one of the triads and just start, it just sounds great, you know, no matter where you are. And then you can go to the next chord or whatever at that point. But I'm finding that that's kind of a fun little effect. What I want to do is just show you the triads up the neck. We could have done this two different ways. I could have done it with, like I'm doing it here, just showing you the three shapes. And technically there too. I guess I did go to the 12th fret. I could have gone to there on the G1 if I wanted to. Didn't think about it. And then on the C1 would be. There are only three shapes in this string setting. I got a haircut, by the way, if you're wondering. Like, why is Tom's head bigger? No, my head's not bigger. My hair is smaller. And then, hey, there's a moderator. Bruce, how you doing? And the other way I could have taught these triads was kind of how we did it last week, which was just learn one position and learn the triads that are in that position. And actually, like for example, if I'm playing here at the 7th fret, I've got all three triads right here. I've got the D triad right there, I've got the G triad there, and I got the C triad here. Even if I wanted to stick with 7th position, I probably wouldn't play the C triad with these three fingers. I'd probably go ahead and play it like this. But the nice thing is they're all right there. So we got... I might play it like that. It'd be nice to be able to get some hammer-ons in there too. Aslan, good to see you. Jim Horst, good to see you. David Sillers in Scotland, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, Dragon, are you new? I don't recognize you. John Y. in Louisville. Max is in the house. It's a gloomy day in California. Kind of digging it. Went for a walk, got my coffee. Paul's just lurking today. Well, that's all right. You don't have to join in. Paul, in fact, Paul's got me thinking now. Let's see. Okay, so Paul, that's right. You live in near Chicago, and you work at the Mercantile. Sorry, I'm looking at your Facebook. Sorry, I probably shouldn't reveal that information. let me see, is this right? Yeah. Let me look. I think Cal, isn't Cal? Is, yeah. Isn't Cal on Facebook too? I'm not seeing him. Well, it's funny because I'm getting all these California English classes. It's like, that's not what I want. His name was Calvin, I guess would be his, technically. Cal was short for Calvin, right? Calvin was our drummer. Cal was our drummer. Oh, yeah, there he is. And he's got drums on his, and he's posted in the list. Yeah, he's the one that moved to the East Coast. He posted, enough with political posts. Can we all get back to hating Tom Brady? That's what I'm talking about. Although, I don't know. I kind of got to root for Tom. Because I mean, you know, Tampa Bay. See, when I was a kid, Paul, you remember this. When we were kids, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when I was in junior high, is when they were a expansion team, and they were the first team, I think, in NFL history to not win a game. So they were 0-14 their first year. And whereas the Seahawks were the other team that were the expansion team that year, and I don't think they did that badly. And part of the reason expansion teams do much better now in the NFL, they get so many more perks, is because of what happened to Tampa Bay, and it took forever to build a fan base. You notice, I think it was Carolina Panthers that got to the Super Bowl within their first 5 seasons or something. It was pretty quick. Because they expanded what the NFL, you know, what expansion teams got. So, I don't know that they're going to do that again. I think the NBA expanding, like Vegas getting an NBA team or something. Anyway, so we're going to continue talking about triads. We're going to keep talking about triads. You know, we will try to probably get to a song at some point. You know, learn a song together if we can do that. I do like the idea of Wildwood Flower. That is a pretty simple song, and something like that. I should know this. So the best way to learn any style of music is, of course, to immerse. It's just like learning a language. It's to immerse yourself in it, okay? In the language, in the style. The best way to learn bluegrass would be for me to move to West Virginia and live in an area where they sit on their porches and everybody plays bluegrass music. Okay, that's a stereotype, but that's kind of, it's true for flamenco. If you want to learn flamenco guitar, you move to Spain, and it has to be transferred one-on-one. So this is not the most optimal way to learn bluegrass. However, I'm a big, like, give me some tools kind of guy, and give me something I can use. And I feel like that's generally the people that subscribe to me and follow me are that way as well. So Dragon's been playing guitar almost 9 years. That's awesome. G-Not. Good not 12. Oh, it's bright and sunny in Texas. Well, good. I'm glad. Oh, good. No, don't worry. You don't have to know when you subbed. I can tell that. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe I could. I could go through. I think I can look at my subs and see, like, they kind of post an order or something like that, but I don't ever look at that. Yeah, Appalachia. Yeah, coal country. Kentucky is a big place where John lives. Tennessee, things like that. Yeah, you know, I would just learn songs. I mean, if somebody really wants to do a style of music, really well. But I also felt like the way I should learn and the way I typically learn are two different things. And the way I should learn would be to immerse myself in the music and just learn lots of songs. And I have done that in the past, actually, to be honest. I have a whole book of bluegrass songs that I would practice playing. But for some reason, it didn't stick. You know, it's like I can't remember any of the songs. In fact, in that book, I probably have Wildwood Flower in there. And I probably have the other song, Beaumont Rag is probably in there. And, but I don't remember them because that's not how I learn. I learn by learning kind of the mathematics and the science and the theory behind things. And then I try to turn off the brain. So it's a combination of getting the head knowledge, getting the dexterity in the left hand in particular. But with bluegrass, I'm really challenging my right hand with a pure alternating picking thing. So you get the education and the dexterity. That doesn't ultimately make music. It's the heart that makes music. So that's kind of where you want those two, the head knowledge has to go through the heart to the hands to create music ultimately. And getting those pathways open and getting in that zone, as I call it, getting in the zone, it's very, very difficult because you have to have both of those things happening before this thing can really happen. I use the example of I always like to tell people if you can sing along with what you're playing, sing along with your melodies, your soloing, try that like George Benson would do. A lot of people do it and they don't have the mic up and you can't hear them doing it. But a lot of, I know, jazz pianists would do it too, but a lot of jazz pianists do it. But the reason for that is because in your head you have millions of melodies. I mean, pretty much every melody you've ever heard in your life is probably still bouncing around, reverberating in your head. Because if you'll notice, if you hear a song, you go, "Wow, that song sounds familiar," or they count on it in film because they create themes, and they create a theme at the beginning for a character, and then they play that theme again, and it's for that character. So you can remember melodies on the short term, but also I think you can remember melodies in the long term. If you heard a song in the '60s maybe a couple times, you hear it again, you'll be like, "Wait, that sounds familiar." And so that tells me that those melodies are floating around in your head, which means pretty much anything you hear up here, you should be able to develop dexterity to try to play here. I had a friend, John Brennan, very good jazz guitarist, went to USC, studied USC, and he showed me the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing for giant steps, which I've never ever been able to solo effectively over giant steps. It's just one of those chord progressions that doesn't make any sense. But the 1, 2, 3, 4 thing, or 1, 2, 3, 5 thing is you just take every chord and you play the root, the second, the third, and the fifth, and the chords go by so fast that's all you have time to do. But but one of the things that comes from that is this dexterity. Because the shapes change as you move all over, try to stay in one position, or if you move positions and things like that. And when you play the minor and the sevenths and all that, they change. And so he could do it like, don't just do 1, 2, 3, 5, like, the first, let's see, giant steps, the first, B, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, do like 1, 3, 2, 5, or backwards. See, I can't even do it. That's it. And the reason is, like, for example, if you can mix it up with those shapes, then you can take something that sounds like an exercise, and if you randomize them, you can make it sound more like a melody. So if I were to play, giant steps using that formula 1, 2, 3, 5, it would sound like this. It just sounds like an exercise. It's the same pattern over and over again, but changing over fast changing chords. About that fast. It's pretty stupid. Stupid fast. Hate it. And the song goes through 3 different keys, but they're not even like, oh, it's going to be in the key of G, then the key of C, and then the key of D. No. It's like the key of B, and then the key of G, and then the key of E flat. So they're literally 3 keys that are a major third apart from each other. So they could have nothing in common with each other, really, very little in common with each other. So playing over giant steps is one of those seminal, markers in your career as a jazz musician if you can improvise over giant steps. I am not even close to being able to improvise. But if I mix up those, so you can, it sounds a little bit more musical when I start mixing up the numbers. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 5, 3. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5. 1, 5. Anyway, it's hard to think about it or to do it. But anyway, hey Sam, good to see you. So for me, learning this bluegrass stuff, for me, it's about getting tools in my head, scales that we can use, and then getting the dexterity down, which some of that dexterity is playing scales in open position, because that's not natural. For me, it's a jazz and rock player. I'm kind of used to playing scales without any open strings. So that's been kind of a learning curve for me. And then the picking thing, where I'm trying to keep that pure alternating picking going. That's also quite a challenge, because I want to throw in kind of economy picking sometimes, or also I just get turned around and I don't remember what direction I'm supposed to be picking. So yeah. Zelda, anyone with that exercise? You have a routing doctor's appointment. So I'm assuming you're going to the proctologist. So I'm glad it's just routine. Okay, so like I said, there's two ways we could have approached this, and I think we can do them both, even with these diagrams. But the diagrams I have up here, I didn't really write what they are on. I'm sorry about that. But it should be pretty obvious, because if you look at the notes in it, G, B, D is going to be the G triads, C, E, G is going to be the C triads, and D, F sharp, A are going to be the F sharp triads. Also, I'm probably going to need to stop Bruce right at 11, because I'm taking a friend of mine, so like he's an hour drive away, but I'm going to take him to lunch. His wife passed away last year, and so I just want to take him to lunch and kind of, walk the path with him for an hour or two, and then I'll come home. But so the Zoom thing's not going to happen today. I've also got a session today, so and when I get back, but well, I have a session today as long as I have the files. I do want to do that Zoom thing. I think it would be kind of interesting to see what happens. And I actually have a Zoom meeting on Wednesday at 11:30. So Wednesday I'd have to stop by then, obviously. But guten Abend, Jan. Good to see you. Oh, you need a new hip? Oh, surgery was put off for a year. Oh, dang. Is it from skiing, Sam? Did you hurt your hip skiing? A friend of mine hurt his hip skiing and had to get a new hip. Okay, so let's do these. Shapes, the G shapes. So the first stack there are the G shapes, and here's what I can do. I could do this. Check this out. Let's see if this helps. Let's see. And I also did not put fret markers in there. So let's work on these shapes first, the G shapes. So it's easy. We have 0, 0, 0, and we also have 12, 12, 12. Also, do this, have harmonic 12s. Okay, and the way you do a harmonic is you touch the string, but don't push it down. Touch the string right above the fret, in this case the 12th fret, pluck it, and then take your finger away. If you leave your finger on, it'll die a lot faster. But if you take your finger off, not too soon. You can leave it on there for a second, or a split second, but. No, Sam is actually Sam's in Michigan. They do ski up where he lives. They have, is it Boyne is up there? I'm trying to remember the ski resort up there. Boyne Heights? No, Boyne Heights, not Boyne Heights, Boyne. So you could also do harmonic. See, there's the bugle thing, right? And that was kind of my point about bugles, is I think they're just overtones, just harmonic overtones. In fact, if you play a G string like that, and then you get the fifth, and here you get the octave, and here you get the third. There's a fifth, and there's a seventh right about there. I can't really hear it, but I'm going to be talking about that briefly on my TikTok. Another time, not now. Boyne Highlands. Boyne. That's how it's spelled, B-O-Y-N-E. That's okay. I thought so. I wouldn't disagree with that, John. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But it's also warmer sounding if you play it closer to the hand. I mean, the guitars, I like the sound of it. You know, I have to sometimes remember when I'm doing sessions to move my hand forward a little bit because the guitar sounds a lot warmer when you pluck up here than back here. It's amazing. It's a radical difference. The only thing is you got to be careful not to hit your fretboard. That can be annoying. A lot of times I'll take my wedding ring off because I'll be like playing and I got a microphone. It's real sensitive and I clack. I'm like, oh man, I take off the band. Yeah, that's not a good sound. So just in the G triad alone, we've got without too much difficulty, we've got three options. These three strings, the fourth, third, and second. That's the only strings we're going to be on today. And then the 12th fret, or you could do the harmonics. There's no reason you could be like. It's kind of cool, actually, to use the harmonics. You could even do those. That's not going to cut through very loud, but I mean they get quieter as you go up the neck. But and then the other triad shape is here at the third fret, first finger on the second string of the third fret, second finger on the third string, fourth fret. Too many numbers. It's like I'm an accountant. And then the third finger on the fifth fret of the fourth string. Oh, Dennis, sorry. Oh, let's see. Dennis said, good thing we wear the wedding ring on the other hand. That way we don't have problems like scratching the neck. Oh, in Holland you wear it on the other hand? That's interesting. Hey, 32 watching. Hey, how's it going, 32 people? So here's that other shape, okay? And again, there's only going to be 3 shapes in total. So every one of these shapes, can be moved around. Like this one is, so when you learn this one here, you learn technically 12 chords if you move it around. The key, I believe, really the hard thing here is to learn which one of the notes is the root. And that also doesn't change. So on this triad shape here, the middle note is the root. So whatever note that is, that's what kind of major chord it is, or major triad, same thing. So if that note is A, then this is going to be an A triad. If this note's B flat, then this is a B flat triad. So, but that requires you to know the notes on the G string. And so that's, we've talked about this in the past. We could I should do a video that I upload where you can practice, but see, it wouldn't be random. That's the problem. It would only be random the first time, and then after that it'd be so. But I could show my technique and then do it, for how I learned the fretboard. And I kind of came up with it myself because I couldn't find any way to learn. Nobody was teaching. And I think the cage method's a good way to learn shapes of chords and scales and pentatonics and diatonics up and down the fretboard. I think that's a great tool, but it doesn't tell you what notes you're playing necessarily. So you have to just plain out memorize that. It's like memorizing your multiplication tables. You kind of just, your addition tables when you were a kid. It's just kind of pure memorization. One thing you could do, okay, is and this is the kind of thing I would do if I was, say, learning it now, trying to learn my fretboard, is I would try to I would write a song in a certain position where I'm struggling to read, and then that song would be kind of an exercise, whether it be, I don't know, I would probably write something that would, okay, because the seventh position is a little tough, or ninth position is a little tough to kind of remember the notes up in here. Obviously, the 12th fret's no problem because it's the same as the open. It's just like right below that is sometimes like, okay, what note is this? Oh, F sharp, that kind of thing. So here's E flat. And that was like, for example, E flat was one that always like, where I couldn't find it. And once I realized that was the one I couldn't find, I just went, oh, it must be this one then. Isn't that stupid? But it's true. It's like, I get E flat and I'll be like, okay, I got E flat, I'm still working my way through the E flats and I go, where's E flat on the G string? Oh, there it is. And so that was kind of one of those things where once I realized I had a gap in my knowledge, I just kind of filled it with putty, which is where most of the gaps of my knowledge are filled with. Yeah, we don't use the metric system. That's why the wedding rings are on our left hand. Us and Liberia, I think those only two countries that don't use the metric system. It's so funny. They tried to sell us on the metric system in the 70s, and it didn't work. I mean, we have 2-liter bottles of soda, but we still have 12-ounce cans of pop, so. And Sam, that's what you call pop, right? I mean, that's what you call soda. Oh, you're off. Okay. Sam's at the proctologist. No, I don't know. Sam's is for regular physical. Okay, so the one G shape there, the next G shape here, and then again, keep in mind this. In this one, the root is down here on the 4th string. So if you know what note that is, then that's what triad this is. So if this is A flat, then this is an A flat triad. If it's A, okay, and then the next shape. So that's when you learn the shapes, try to remember which note is the root. It's not as critical to remember which note is the root or the 3rd and 5th. However, that's when you know the 3rd and 5th, you could do the sus4, and you could do the sus6 or the 6, and that gives you some, So I'm just throwing in the sus4 on the G triads, and it gives you a little bit of variation, so it's not a pure, just a pure triad when you're soloing. So there's that, and then here the next one is probably the hardest of the 3 shapes, but it's basically this shape with these 2 fingers reversed. So just think of it that way. And the root now is on the 2nd string. And we got to find a G. So the G on the 2nd string is up here at the 8th fret. So that means your 2nd finger is going to be on the 8th fret. Your 1st finger is going to be on the 7th fret. And your 3rd finger is going to be down here on the 9th fret. And that's a G triad also. Okay, but we have the 3rd, the 5th, and then the root on top. And that one's kind of nice too. The nice thing about that one, and the way you would play it on the next string set, okay, the next 3 set of strings, is this way. Okay, which is the top of the G bar chord. Okay, so 3rd, 5th, root. Okay, so you could play it there too, but we're not learning those triads yet. We may do that. We may do that next, but I don't know. I'm gonna want to move on. I think we're gonna try to maybe move on to working on a song together. I think Wildwood Flower. What's the song called? Wildwood Flowers. I think. Yeah, I think that's the song. Yeah, I know. Fahrenheit makes no sense. Although that's Celsius is the one that does it. I mean, the nice thing about Fahrenheit is you have a lot more numbers. So, because 90 is warm, but 100 is hot, But the difference between 90 and 100 in Celsius is like, I don't even know what is that, 34 and 35 or something. And you're like, well, 34 is warm, but 35 is hot. It's like, whoa, it just went up there fast. Michael, good morning. I got a haircut, yes. Finally, the salon, the hair cutting place, the lady, I tipped her pretty big because I felt bad for her. I was the one that told her that they shut it down again in December. She was like, wait, what? And there were people waiting in line. They said, oh, yeah, that's why we're here, because tomorrow you can't work. And she didn't know. I was like, oh, man. Because she didn't really speak English. And, you know, probably they had it on the TV, but it was like, I felt bad for her. So she had to take another 2 months off from work. It's like, ridiculous. So, yeah, I got to cut pretty short just because I don't have to go back anytime. They may shut everything down again. So this is the G Triad, and then the last one. Yeah, you could do this one. I didn't write that on there, should have, but I didn't. Okay, so let's play the three of them. Here's this one. Okay, down, up, down, and then here's this one, down, up, down. Okay, the 3rd fret, and then at the 7th fret, this one. In fact, go back and forth between these two. Okay, so we're going to be at the 3rd fret, playing this triad, and then you're going to reverse the 1st and 2nd finger and go up here to the 7th fret. And then go back down to this triad. And go back up to this one. We're going to try something here in a second. I may fail, okay? But just get a feel for that. Keep doing it. If we want to pluck individual notes, we can do that too. Hey, Black Wolf. What's a hybrid triad? Educate me, Black Wolf. I mean, I could Google it, but I'm not even sure that may be your name for it. Okay, now, try this, but close your eyes. Get a feel for that movement. You're actually moving 5 frets. It's a pretty big move. Okay, and one of the ways these triads can come in handy is for position shifting. Okay, so if I'm playing along with the jam track, okay, here, where is it? Oh, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to do. Sorry. Okay, so, so what I want to say is with the triads, it's kind of a cool way to bring yourself up the neck a little bit. If you start to memorize the way the shapes, that one's easy, right? We just leave our hand hovered over it. But if you can kind of get it down where you go from here to here, then... you see how I use the triads to kind of move myself to different positions. And then once I got up to different positions, and again, we haven't really talked about any scales outside of open, the open scales. So I got to organize my windows a little bit. Does that make sense? You see what's happening there? How I'm using them anyway. See, John's always got good questions here. See, John, are triads most often played on the third, fourth? Yeah, I mean, you can learn, like there's a G triad, there's a C. For soloing purposes, the lower strings are not going to be, cut through as much because you've got in this scenario, you might have a guitar player playing down, playing chords. So he's playing low, and then you got the bass player. You got, so that lower range is occupied, and what generally they'll try to do is you won't see a lot of rhythm guitar players playing, up here, because that's kind of the range where they're expecting the soloist to go. So up top four strings are going to be more, are going to cut through more, and going to be more usable. But no, you can totally learn the triads on the, and actually the triad shapes, based on the fifth and sixth string, are probably more familiar. I mean, they're familiar because they look like open chords. There's one there. Some of them, will be very familiar because they look more like the cage shapes. The ones here, you have to almost, like this one doesn't look like anything. Even this one here, you're like, wait, what's that? It's like, oh, well, that's kind of the G or the A shape. But this one in particular, like, oh, that's a C form, straight out C form, but it doesn't look like a C chord when you're playing it like this. Whereas, like when you're playing the triad, this triad here, obviously, it looks like it almost looks more like a C chord. So that's the main reason. It's just range. We're concentrating on the top four strings mainly because we want to cut through, and then now we learned we're less than 170 here, so and I just passed 89,000 subscribers. It's starting to slow down though, so we'll see. My TikTok blew up. I started TikTok last Sunday, and I got like, oh shoot, I got like 119,000 views of. Oops. Oh, I see. How do I get back to? Oh, here we go. I've got 119,000 views of a video I did like on Tuesday, and yet then other videos, 1,300 and 800 and 390 are the next three videos. So it's kind of fickle. I think part of the reason my TikTok video took off because I started with a dive bomb. So I think that's people are like, wait, what the heck is that? So I'm gonna do one on pinch harmonics. Maybe today, probably for sure tomorrow. Yeah. So Black Wolf. We talked about this last week when I started talking in lesson 8, and here's week 8. Here's week 8 lesson. So this is week 9 on this subject. Just to give you a quick. These are all the lessons we've had. Okay, G major scale, major pentatonic scales, major blues scales. We did the Mixolydian scale. We did minor pentatonics. We did minor blues pentatonics, and then we did Dorian scale, and then we started moving on triads. And the triad, part of the thing about the triad is its triad use on guitar and bluegrass is often the bluegrass guitar player trying to sound like the bluegrass banjo player. So when you do that, roll, that's kind of a very banjo-y thing. I mean, we did a video. If you go to my TikTok, you can see the video that Alex and I did. And one of the songs we did was Take It Easy, and I'm playing banjo on Take It Easy. We did this thing where when you pick up an instrument, what song do you want to play on it? And the nylon was, right? And then what was the other instrument? We did mandolin, and that was, I can't play it because I don't have, can I play it? Oh, maybe I can. Losing My Religion from REM. And then we did banjo. I was trying to think, what song is banjo? And so I came up with the end of Take It Easy, which is the fun part of the song, you know, when it really kind of unloads and everybody starts jamming. And so that's where we kind of played on a banjo. So yeah, Alex and I have done 3 of those now together. It's been pretty fun because we have a lot. He wants to go to guitar stores and do it now too, so because he'd be like, "Oh, here's a Jaguar. Let's pull down a Jaguar. What does that make us feel?" But he's been doing them in kind of groups of 3. We could do like 3 songs with one guitar. That would be the other way to approach it. But yeah. So this is kind of the pattern that I'm doing, like in the song that we learned. And if you go to the Discord, which I pinned up there, so you can join up the Discord thing there. If you go to the Discord, you can see the songs we've been doing. And this week's song was something like that. And what I was doing is trying to get you to play triads with pure alternating. But the pattern we were doing was kind of a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, because we have 8 notes. I mean eight eighth notes. Okay, in a bar, and we have 3 notes that we want to kind of spread over those. We could go, and that would be more of like an etude approach. You know, more classical. That's more classical sounding. You know, to me that sounded a little bit more country. And then the other, we did another in the song, in the 3rd phrase, I changed it to a 3 2 3 pattern, which also sounds very banjo-y to me, right? Because banjo rolls, you know, I haven't talked much about banjo, but the trick of banjo is, and I'm not a banjo player by any stretch, but the main thing with banjo is you really want to get down a bunch of rolls. Like, remember I talk about, number 1 thing you want to learn on electric guitar is the fretboard. Learn the fretboard. Number 1 thing you want to learn on acoustic guitar, like, you make it a priority. You know, it doesn't have to be. Now, I'm not talking about the only thing, because when I say number 1, it implies there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. There's an infinite number. But the main thing, strumming groups, because so many acoustic guitar players do everything they use the same strumming group. So make it a priority to learn a lot of different strumming groups, because generally on the left hand, it's kind of like banjo. You're going to be playing some simple chords. If the song's in a weird key, you just throw on a capo and you play the same chords, you know. Oh, we're in B flat, okay. It's the same, you know. So ultimately, the left hand on acoustic guitar could be very simple if you're not soloing or playing difficult songs, if you're just playing basic songs. But it's the right hand that's going to betray you as a beginner, because it's going to be, oh man, that pattern again? Oh dang, every song sounds the same. And it's like, you can... We've talked about grooves. That's one of the, in these lessons, these COVID lessons we've been doing, that is one of the series that we did for a while. And Bruce has been archiving all of that. He also on the Discord page, you can get that list and see that list. But with banjo, the thing is, you want to learn just a million rolls, and that's where I've got like 3 or 4 rolls down right now. So I'm trying to learn some new ones. It's just a little tough, and it's a very bass-awkward instrument, because the highest string, the G note, is on the lowest position down here on the thumb, and that's why people they generally don't like, you know, banjo music can kind of rub you the wrong way after a while, because it's very drony. That G string is constantly ringing out, and like bagpipes and sitar. You've got drone notes that are just like a drill. They're just like someone's drilling a hole in your head. And after a while, you get like, okay, I'm done. I'm good with banjo music for a couple weeks, you know. But that's definitely one of the tricks. And so what I'm trying to do with these triads is kind of come up with some different patterns. There's the 3 3 2. The 3 2 3 2 3 would sound like this. I got to practice it faster. I like that one a lot. it's kind of a fun one, but I have to get it down. And then the other one could be 2, 3, 3. You could do that. Oh, sorry. So and it's kind of where you put the 2 determines where that skip is going to occur. You know, there's going to be a moment where it's kind of like feels like you're kind of out of sync. Ah, it's hard. So. Okay, so let's just quickly review the 3 G triads. And again, these shapes are all the same. So the D triads and the C triads are going to be the same. They're just going to be in different positions. So all 3 open. And then 3rd fret, you have 3, 4, 5. And then you go up to the 7th fret, and you have 9, 7, and 8. And then you go up here, and 12, 12, 12. Okay, you can do that. Or you could do harmonics. That's kind of fun. So, Paul, do you play right-handed then? Oh, okay. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. Have you ever picked up a guitar left-handed? A left-handed guitar? Should you get one? Or is it, you've been playing guitar too long that it's too late? I always liked teaching left-handed guitar players because it was like facing a mirror. It was very easy, you know, you didn't have to mentally rotate everything over for them, or they didn't have to rotate everything over for themselves. Okay, so now I'm going to make the G triad smaller, and let's go to the C triad. I thought there was a pick inside there. All right, I'm going to make this small. Wait, that's not what I want to do. Okay, let's grab the C, put the G over here. Let's work on the C triads. And, you know, literally did this in words, so you can see, like, my letters are not perfectly aligned inside the little black, you know, balls or whatever, black circles. You know, it's not perfect. What I should have done is created a perfect one and then grouped the 2 together, because what I did was I created the ball and then created text on top of the ball, and I had to do that, each one of those. What I should have done, like I said, is create a group, save it as a group, and then duplicate it that way, but I wasn't that smart. Yeah, playing left-handed would be starting. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, and the main thing, Paul, you know, when you're strumming, the number one thing to kind of think of is just keep your hand moving, even if you're not hitting the strings. Okay. Your right hand should kind of line up with the drummer's right hand. So what he's hitting on the hi-hat, right? A right-handed drummer is playing like that. Hey, Ark, what's going on? And so you want to, even if you're not. You know, even if you're not hitting the strings, you want to keep that arm moving. I always use the standard folk groove as a kind of a starting point. If you can get to that point, it takes a while to get to that point, because the folk groove, what I call the standard folk groove, which is my name, is technically a syncopated pattern, because it's down, down, up, down, up. Okay, it's syncopated because you have a stranded upstroke is what I kind of call it. You have an upstroke that doesn't have a downstroke right before it. So you've got, and ultimately you're doing 2 upstrokes in a row. Okay. If you didn't do that, if you only strummed when you had to hit the strings, it would look like this and sound like this. It feels stiff. It looks stiff. It sounds stiff. It is stiff. And so that's why you want to kind of keep the whole thing going. But you'll see people on TV. In fact, I did for that TV show Neighbors. It only lasted 2 seasons. I was coaching the 2 main lead actors for an episode, and one episode was the episode was was it? It was when the main character was going to his high school reunion. I think it was his 20th high school reunion, and he puts his band back together to play at it. But he really can't play, and so I had to kind of coach him a little bit. He's playing acoustic guitar and singing the song, and he could not keep his right hand going very good. And even the director was like, "Yeah, that doesn't look very good. Can you work with him on that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying." And so so when they filmed him, they had a crowd, and what I did was I put a ladder up in the crowd, probably completely against union rules, but I put a ladder up in the crowd and climbed to the top of the ladder. It was a high ladder too, so that he could see me. And I was like doing this just to keep his hand moving, and he would look at and he's singing this song, and he's looking at me, and it was what ended up on the, it was pretty funny. So he was really trying hard, and it was like almost like he was trying too hard. There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that, Bruce. Yeah, so check out those strumming, and I talk about it. And I've got other strumming lessons on YouTube. So if you just go, I actually have a playlist called Strumming. So the first C triad here is this one, which makes sense. It's just part of the C chord. We play the C chord. It's just these three strings. Again, we're on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. So it's 2nd fret open and 1st fret. Okay, the next one is easy, 5th fret right here. Okay, like that, and the root is here on the 3rd string. So in some ways you can use the triads to help you learn the notes on the strings, but that's a C note right there. And here's the sus if you want to go. It gives you a sus 4th sound, or if I want to go with a sus 2 sound, I go. Let me try that other. It's so hard to try to do two things. It's like doing two things at once, which you're all like going, "Yeah, Tom, we know it's hard." That's why we're here. I know. I like it when there's things I can't do, and I can't do them in front of you because I want you to realize I am human. I know you think I'm subhuman, but I'm a legend in my spare time. I'm a legend in my own mind. So the next triad after this one is this one. So we're going to practice going back and forth between these two. This one is, the root is on the bottom note, and it's based on the bar chord, the E form bar chord. It's those three strings. So 10th fret, 9th fret, and 8th fret. Play that, and then go to this C. Now go up to this C. You go to this C. Maybe go down to this C. And back up to the 5th fret C. Back up to the 8th fret. The 5th fret, back and forth here. And so now try it, close your eyes to it. Get a feel for that distance. Okay, and again, this is a great tool to kind of you're right there over the C bar chord. So if you got a lot of, you can do a lot of blues notes there. So check this out. We'll do it with a track. Trying something that didn't work. That G major doesn't work very good over, the G major scale doesn't work very good over that C chord. I like the sound of that F, even as out of the key. I like the sound of the F better than the F sharp. It's too Lydian sounding to me. I mean, it could be kind of cool, but when you're just in the middle of ripping on a G major scale, then it totally makes sense. You know, to go to the C chord. So it totally makes sense. So let's see. So those are the 3 triads for the C, and then the D is the same thing, only up 2 frets. So let's go ahead and work the D a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to make the C back to small. This kind of works. I was like, how am I going to get these really long grids up here with have them be big enough that we can see them, and not so big that they take up like block me. You know, you don't. I mean, you might want this. I think everyone prefers this, but then it blocks the guitar too because it's so long. So it doesn't really work. So. Okay, Aslan, head out. For real this time. Okay, so the D shapes, we got this one. This is kind of the most difficult of all of them. I think because it's kind of got a little bit of a stretch. The frets are still a little bit big down here. You know? So it's like, you gotta kind of, it's like big, gotta get those fingers warmed up, right? Hey, speaking of fingers warmed up, where's Holly? She's mad because I didn't do the Zoom call, right? Okay, this is that warm-up I just posted last week or 2 weeks ago. That my classical guitar professor taught me way long time ago. So the D shape, this one here. So we're at the 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string, 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And so there's where the root is. That's the D. So whatever note that is, that's what triad is. Here's E flat. Here's D. Here's D flat. D, E flat, D, C sharp. Oh, nice. My 60th birthday's coming up this year. Okay, and then the next shape is easy. It's this one at the 7th fret. Again, on the same 4 strings, 3 strings, sorry. Starting to get that pattern down. It really does help, and I'm really, really bad at this. It really, really does help to start slow and get it down slow where you're not making mistakes. Boy, somebody said something. It was one of you quoted it or earlier this year. Quoted it was such a great quote. Of course, I can't remember it. But basically, if you're going too fast, you're maximizing your mistakes and not you don't want to do that. And then the last triad where the root is on the 4th string is this shape. Again, this familiar with this bar chord here. It's 12, 11, and 10, all right in a row. And the way we're learning these kind of, the D shapes up here, kind of the tool that you might glean from that is an ability to move up the fretboard to play up higher. And if you're all, some of you are used to playing like scales more up the fretboard, then these are great tools to get you away from those open strings. But I still think in the bluegrass context, you want to throw out as many open strings as you possibly can. Then there's times, myself included, where you want to get to some familiar territory and just shred, you know. So, you know, something like that. So that's excuse me, one way to learn the triad shapes. But another way to learn them is like learn the D shape here, a G shape here, a C shape. You know, learn them in a neighborhood and get them down there, because that's handy for the context of going from one to the other and not having to make a big jump. So, for example, if I'm on G and I want to go to D, I can go right to. I want to go to C. You know, like that. Or if I'm here, C. There's no, probably play C, D, and G here, but you can learn them in neighborhoods, or you can learn them individually up the neck and then piece them together that way. And again, maybe a byproduct of learning these and knowing where the roots are in each of the scales or each of the triads, you'll start to learn the fretboard a little bit better. And if we go to different keys, you're going to need to, learn different triads if we go to different songs. But if we learn some different songs, we'll see how much we actually go into learning scales to go with those songs. I don't know. We'll open that Pandora's box, because again, for me, learning anything, you think, oh, I just turned a corner, and then the problem is when you turn the corner, you got a whole new horizon of stuff to learn. You're like, oh, dang it. It's like, it's exactly like that tubing trip with my stepdad on the Manistee River when we kept expecting that bridge to show up. And every time we turned a corner, and this is a river that goes like this, right? Every time we turned a corner river, we were hoping and expecting the bridge to be there. After we'd been on the river for like 4 or 5 hours, and the sun was setting, and the bugs were coming out, and we just were in our swimsuits, and we thought that the bridge would. And when we finally turned a corner, and there was the bridge, I go, hey, Bill, the bridge, and he goes, that's not the bridge. So we hadn't even gotten to the real bridge that we were trying to get to. So that was kind of like, oh, man. But that's exactly what guitar playing is like. You turn a corner, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, you mean I got to learn all that now? That's what it feels like, right? So, and I'm kind of your guide for all of that. I'm like, hey, check this out. Come here, look around the corner here. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. What? And I go, check it out. And you're like, oh, I got to learn all that. And go, yeah. Isn't that fun? You're like, oh, no. So anyway, let me entertain you. Yeah, chatting. Exactly. Just starting your river ride. That's it. Guitar playing is a total river ride. So let me just do some things with the triads with the track, and I'll try to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing them. Okay. So first thing I can do is just play them in a neighborhood. So I'm going to do neighborhood. I used a D7 there. Okay, so here's another neighborhood. I'm going to stay in this neighborhood. I'm going to add the sus4. So I'm going to sus each chord. I got painted myself in a corner. Okay, now I'm going to stop and explain what I did there. So, got to go to the right window. There we go. Okay, so basically what I did there was I did a sus4. Okay, this is one of the great things about knowing your fretboard and at least knowing the notes in your triads. So again, with each of these triads, if I play this triad here, this G triad, this is the root, this is the third and the fifth. So they're in an order this time. Not always going to be the case. You can see the triad listing up here, okay? All the notes in the triads. This is G, B, D. Okay, the way you get that sus4 sound is you just go up one fret from the third, which is in this case the B, okay? So if I go, and then I go like this, that is a G sus4 technically. Shorthand would be G sus. If you write G sus, every guitar player will play this, you know, will play that voicing or that chord. You could put the word sus4 because there's technically a sus2, and I think there's a sus6, although someone said, no, there's no such thing as a sus6. I'm like, technically it's an E minor chord. However, if you're resolving back to G, then you can think of it as a sus6, especially in that context. But anyway, so here's what the sus4 sounds like. Right? So it gives you a little bit of almost melodic variation within you're just playing kind of a banjo, you know, triad kind of banjo lick, but you had you can change as fast or as slow as you want to on that. Okay, so for that shape, no matter where we go, C, and again, C technically in the key of G, it should be F sharp, but that's just too. I mean, that's great if you're writing a movie score. Sounds like a movie score. But for bluegrass, the F natural sounds great. We use the F natural that occurred naturally in the G Mixolydian and in the G Dorian scales, and then of course in the minor pentatonics as well. So that F, so the exact same shape that you're doing here, the same addition you're doing here with G, you can do with C and with D. Okay, so that because this would be C sus and this would be D sus. Okay, so that's one voicing I did. So what I did, but I did that on this voicing. Okay, so this is the G voicing here. It's a little bit more difficult because we're going to be doing the sus with our pinky. Well, we were doing it with our pinky here, but it was a little bit more compressed, right? We're all in a 3-fret range. But when we go up to here to this G shape, yeah, it's kind of, it has dissonance. It's that 4/5 when I added the, you get that flat 5 or sharp 4. Technically, theoretically, that's the correct 4 for the 4 chord, but we just like the regular plain old sus. Okay, so but here with this shape, okay, so play this shape with me. Fourth string, 3rd finger, 9th fret. 1st finger is on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and then on the 2nd string you got your 2nd finger, but it's at the 8th fret. So there's the G triad. There's our 3rd. There's our B right there. The next string is the D, and the top one is the G. It's a little bit tougher getting that pinky up there, but once you got it down, you should have it down. Oh, the typing on a TV, those things are. You might be able to use your phone though. I mean, if you have Apple TV, you can use your phone to do that, which is cool. I think I've not actually done it, but just making stuff. Michael, what's going on? The sus2 over the G chord. This one will be also sounds kind of a little soundtracky to me. Over this one, it's a really big reach. Okay, over this shape, it's really great. It's right there. So let me. Sorry, that was a little flubby. Well, let me do it over the. That's a word. Come on. Let me try to do it over the. See this one. But we can also go down to it. I'll show you that. Sorry. So you get to the second. There's two ways to get to the second. Okay, so the sus second. If you're thinking sus second, I think take the 1 to the 2. You're suspending and then coming back, right? So technically, is there such a thing as a sus 2 chord? I mean, you would probably call it a 2 chord. But when we're talking about triads, yes, for sure. I think you could, because in the context of this, let's do the C one. Okay, so here's our C triad. Here's our sus 4, right? So I'm at the 5th fret, these 3 strings, just these 3 strings. And then here's the 1. The root is right here, the same thing. Root and the 1 are the same thing. And so the root is right here on the 3rd string. So if I go up 2 frets on the root, I get the 2nd. I think of Nadia's theme, right? That's a sus 2. But it is a great melodic device. So, for example, we're talking about this, if you're playing something. I mean, I'm just farting around right there. I'm playing the G, and here's the 2nd, and here's the 5th, 4th, and here's the 6th. Okay. So I feel like all 3 of those susses, if I did them all at once, I'd end up with an A minor chord. And that's, remember, Keith Richards tunes to open G, and he'll do stuff like that. Like, oops. Right? He'll do the sus 2 and sus 6 at the same time, or he'll do the 2 and the 2 and the 4, or sometimes he'll do all 3 of them. Not very often did I hear Keith Richards do that, but a lot of times he'll do just the 6, he'll do just the 2, or he'll do the 6 and the 2, or he'll do the 6 and the, I'm sorry, the 2 and the 4. So anyway, man, we haven't had any drinking game violations. We almost did. I was thinking about going to get my banjo, so I would leave the room to do that. But I said there are 2 ways to do the 2, to get to the 2, right? You can go from the root, the G, to the A, for example. So you could go, right, very pretty. Or I could go from the 3rd down to the 2. Okay, and that would also be, that could be called, and I don't worry, okay, here's a drinking opportunity. There won't be a quiz on this. That could also be called G2 no 3rd, because we're getting rid of the 3rd. So you're going to have to, instead of playing G this way, you're going to have to play it like this, okay? So I've got my pinky on the 5th fret of the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Sometimes I feel like an accountant. Okay, and then you're going to, this is hard. Okay, this is more advanced, all right? All right, you with me here? You're going to put your 1st finger on the A note there, which is the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and then you're going to take off the 3rd finger. What? Now, that is a very, very piano-esque thing to do. There was a country player, Floyd Kramer. Floyd Kramer, is that right? He would do that. But this is one of my favorite country licks. I would do this actually. and this would come under more of the realm of the country thing. But I would do this oftentimes, and the thing is, I would do it to every one of the triads. So it wouldn't just be this triad shape that I would do it to. I would take that middle note down to the next note in the key. So I'm taking this middle note A or B down to A. Okay, but when I get to this one, notice how I'm playing this shape. This is that second shape. I'm in the G. I'm in the G triads right now. But I put my first finger down here on the C. Isn't that a beautiful sound? And then the last one would be this one. I might do that one. That one's a little bit more rare. Or I might go to the G7, but that's just really difficult to do in this voicing, so I would probably move it to this. Or I could do it. I'm moving up to the next 3 strings to get a better voicing for hammering on. So listen to this. See. So over G, I could go. Or I could even go, yeah. Usually I'm doing this on electric. Oh, Denise says hello. Hey, Denise. Anyway, that's more advanced. And that's what I would call I was working with Skrillex a couple weeks ago. We were writing together, and Skrillex is a producer here in Los Angeles. And I'm watching him work. I mean, I'm coming up with guitar hooks, and then he's like turning them into songs. I'm watching him work, and it's just amazing. Like he would add all this stuff to the session, and then he'd start deleting stuff, and then he would take it, like one thing would inspire another thing, would inspire another thing, would inspire another thing, and then he'd remove everything that was, and then ended up with, this real basic, bare minimum kind of pop mix, which is, pop mixes are very, very minimalistic for the most part. If you listen to the elements, it's not very busy. There's not a lot of stuff going on. So I was telling him, I said, man, you're like a sculptor. I said, I understand painting. Painting, I understand. My sister's a painter. And I understand taking paint and adding it to a canvas and making a picture. Now, I couldn't do it, but I understand it. Sculpture is something I can't understand. My brain can't see sculpture. And sculpture's been around longer than painting has, or about this. I mean, they've both been around forever. But sculpture, they take a big, giant cube of marble and they carve David out of it. Really? It's like, how did you... it's like, okay, if I chip away here, and I get it that they chip away and they kind of keep chipping away and it's slowly, but it's so I call painting an additive art, and I call sculpture a redactive art, and so this same thing with these triads, okay, taking this D shape and adding the 4 is much easier. It's easier to be additive on this than to be redacted. Or I'm sorry, add the 2. So I'm adding the 2 by going, here's the bar, 7, 7, 7. I'm adding the 9th fret on the 3rd string. But I could also reduce, or there's more preparation involved. With this, I go, I'm going to start with the triad. Oh, maybe I'll add the 2nd. It's kind of like that. It's like you can do, I'll add the 2nd as an afterthought. I'll add the 4th. I'll add the 6th. Okay, but if you're going to go down to the 2nd or down to the 4th, then you've got to prep the chord that you're playing to be able to go down there. So it's not something you can just do. You're like, notice, because I'm having to actually play this triad completely different to be able to go down to the 2nd. Have I watched Song Exploder? Is that a movie or is that a YouTube video? I have not, obviously, or else I would know. Or maybe I have and I just don't remember. But okay, now I can also go to the 4th on this triad, but that's even harder. But it's really cool sounding. So check it out. See, look what I'm doing here. I'm playing a triad with these 3 fingers, and I'm on the D, and then I'm reaching down to get the G here, which is the sus4. Okay, I'll check it out. Okay, Mr. X, I'm giving you a shout out. Okay, John, I will not tell your boss you're here. So you can see in all those, that triad shape, once, you know, I'm going from the 5th down to the 4th. So the 3rd is still there. That's what creates that dissonance, because you have the 3 and the 4, which are normally a half step apart, like that. Normally a half step apart. Like you can play like that. You don't have them rubbing against each other so much. Now you have them rubbing against each other. It's very difficult to play. And again, like I said, if you're thinking about using that, you have to be thinking about it before you're actually doing it. Okay. Now, I don't know what I'm going to teach. Well, you know, I may... I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I don't think I'm going to create a song around these. All right? So I got to start... I got to make a plan for the next series of lessons, because I think what we might do is learn Wildflower. And I have a feeling Mr. X is gone already, Bruce. I think he's just a live chat or a live stream surfer. We get those every now and then. They want the shout outs. I don't know what for. Maybe they're going to turn me into a meme. But so I think what I will do is I need to find a good chart for Wildwood Flower, and it's a very simple song. Actually, you know what I need to do is I just need to find any chart for Wildwood Flower, and then I'll create a PDF for it that we'll use for our class. I don't know what Mama Tried is. What was I just doing that had Mama Tried? Probably. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure what I was doing. You mean, was this the lick I was playing there? Oh, where did that guitar? I don't know. That kind of thing, I was just kind of messing around. We've been working on these scales for 9 weeks now. This is week number 9. So I'm just kind of playing around with the blues minor pentatonic. I think basically a blues G blues scale. But if you're talking about the triad things, yeah, we've been talking about the triads last week and this week. But yeah, so the additive thing. Hold on, let me just check something real quick. Okay, let's see. What was it called? Song Exploder. Okay, let me just maybe put that in my Netflix queue. Okay, well I'm thinking, because the chat's going by so fast. Bum bum bum. I'm gonna lose, Catherine, what you suggested. I'll check it out. There we go. There we go. Dua Lipa. Oh, interesting. I wonder. Yeah, this looks good. I'll have to check it out. My friend Josh mixed Dua Lipa's record. But, you know, the thing is, there's no one way song music gets made anymore. It never has been a one way. So, let's see. you wouldn't know how to meme me. I'm so memeable. So let's see what else is going on. All right, well, we're gonna take a break here. Talk about something else. Yeah, so I did some sessions. I've been working on Apex Legends again, so you can take a sip for that. Cheers. I found out I'm going to be working on Star Wars game too, which is fun. And so that will be cool. I get to do some fun stuff for that. I've been doing a lot of, in fact, I did my last TikTok was about Apex Legends, but it didn't, I think, right? No, the last one was with Alex. We did, here, I'll show you. We did, Alex and I, you know, you can see. So I got to turn the brightness down. See, Alex and I I'm playing nylon. So basically it was what different songs, instruments make me want to play. Tears in Heaven, we play Tears in Heaven, and then we go to mandolin and we play, Alex goes to mandolin and we play REM. Now I'm not playing the music because I don't want to get the video taken down. Hey, Holly's, wait a minute. Tell your husband happy birthday, happy 60th. I'm about to have mine. But you can check out the TikTok thing. I think we're done with the lesson at this point. Basically, what I want you to try to do is to try to memorize the 3 shapes and try to find those 3 chords. So I'm not asking a lot. The D triads and the C triads are just 2 frets away from each other. So once you know one, you should know the other pretty easily. The G triad may take a little bit more time, but even the G triad starts out with 3 open strings. So you got an easy start. And then I would practice. I said I was putting the guitar down, but I'll pick it right back up. Pull me back in. But you can practice going back and forth between the 2 shapes in the middle and try not to look at your hands when you do it. And then for C it would be right. For D you could work on those 2. And the idea is that, you know, if you're in G and you go to C and you go to G and then you go to D, you got, you know, you've got a tool that you can use to get you to another position in the fretboard to start playing, to start soloing using some scales or licks that you already know up there, you know. So everybody's saying hi to Holly. Holly's saying hi to everybody. So let's see. What else is going on? I got my Butler shirt on. Butler is a school in Indianapolis. I wanted to go to Berkeley in Boston. It's kind of dirty. I wanted to go to Berkeley in Boston, but I just didn't have the guts when I was graduating high school, the guts to leave town. I was a little bit of I guess you could say I was a mama's boy. I was a little bit of a scaredy cat. And so I just, you know, plus it was pretty expensive, and I don't know that my mom could have afforded it, and I would have been living away from home, and it would have been all that added expense. And I didn't even think I was going to go to college until like the summer before. I actually had a job. I was working at a music store. Actually, it was interesting. I was working in Indianapolis at the Castleton Mall. I was working at a music store that was in consigned space in a Sears. So this music store that was from out of town consigned some space. What was it? Rocky's Music or something like that? I wonder if was it Rocky's? That sounds familiar. Rocky's Music, Indiana. I don't think it exists anymore. No, Roxy Music. Rocky's Music. Genuine Cowhide Guitar. No. Rocky's Music Center. Oh, where is this? Rockies Music Center. Interesting. Well, it says Indianapolis, but Jackson Rockies Music Center. Jackson. Weird. Where is that? I don't even. Do they have a website? Anyway, it's fascinating for me. Yeah, Indianapolis. I've never seen this, but I think it was called Rockies. But they consigned space in the Sears in the Appliance Center. And this would have been right around 78. I think it was in high school. You know, I kind of liked the job. I was probably 16 or 17. I had my driver's license, so I was I drove out to work. I went out there. I would dress up. You know, I'd wear slacks and a nice shirt, you know, kind of thing, and not jeans. And but it was like right by the washers and dryers and the TVs and the records. You know, they sold records at Sears at this point and stuff, albums. And so it was kind of tucked behind all that. And man, I wouldn't get a lot of foot traffic, which was kind of fine with me. But they sold Gibsons and they sold Guilds and they sold Martins and they sold Fenders. And so we had everything. I mean, I played and we had amps and everything. So we had all this stuff there. And so all I did was I got paid to sit there, basically babysit it and sell things. And I got commission on top of salary, which was cool. So if I did make a sale, then I would get a check. And I think it was like 2% or something. So if I sold a $1,000 guitar, I made an extra $20. Back then, that was a lot. When that year's when the gas prices went from from 50 cents a gallon. That's how old I am. 50 cents a gallon to $1 a gallon. I think some of you may remember that. And my boss gave me a raise because he said, yeah, you know, I was driving and it was a lot more expensive to drive to work because I was driving this old Ford Country Squire that probably got 10 miles a gallon, if that. You know, so I'm doing that and I'm playing in my band. I have a band and we're gigging. So on the weekends we're gigging. And I'm babysitting these guitars. It's funny because I do remember one of the workers there would hang out with stuff. But yeah, so I would basically just practice guitar all day after school while, you know, at this job. And got paid to do it. And it was great. But then because the economy was kind of tanking at the time and it was kind of an odd location, you know, be by the washers and dryers. People didn't know it was there. It didn't generate enough business to justify. I don't think I was paid too much. I think it was the rent that was costing them. So they shut it down. So I was like, shoot, I got to get a job. So I ended up getting a job across the street at a Mexican restaurant called Gringos. And like, seriously, why would you go to a Mexican restaurant called Gringos? That's like the last Mexican restaurant you want to go to, you know? But I guess the implication was it was for gringos. Maybe they should have called it for gringos, because there are not a lot of Latinos in Indianapolis at the time, particularly at the time. And so I remember, I vividly remember the feeling like I was using the cutter to cut, like knife to cut tortillas, like stacks of corn tortillas into chips. You know, I had to cut them into eighths. I remember frying, you know, turning the fryer on first thing in the morning so that it would solidify overnight, so it would have time to unsolidify so I could fry I remember cutting the cheese and laughing and going, because they had this tool that was to cut the cheese and I'm looking at the thing that's cutting the cheese and it's actually a guitar string. It's like if it breaks, you replace it with a G string. I kid you not. So you're cutting the cheese with a G string. It just sounds wrong on so many levels. And for some reason, my mom picked me up. I'm not sure why, but maybe she needed the car or something. Anyway, sometimes she would pick me up. And sometimes she'd just get there early and sit out front and watch me mop the floors. I think I literally spent most of the money I earned at that place on the jukebox because I just wanted to hear some good music. So that was when I decided to go to college. So I did that job, I don't know, 6 weeks and I quit. And I was like, yeah, this is not for me. Well, the good thing was Carrie at the guitar store I was working at, she said, hey, would you I mean, the guitar store that I took lessons from, she said, would you be interested in teaching lessons? I have a teacher that's leaving, and he had 4 students. Would you be interested in teaching them? And I said, sure. And I made more money teaching those 4 students in 2 hours than I made in a day at Gringo's, in an 8-hour shift at Gringo's. So I was kind of like, okay, if I can get more students, then I can stop doing that. But at the same time, I was like, I should probably at least apply to college. So the only college I applied to was Butler. And my math score, I got 800 out of 800 on the SAT, and that helped. But my English score was like 325. It was awful. You know, my average, I think my total for the SAT was like 1125, which is really bad. Should not have gotten me. But my audition went well, and I had to play in front of some professors, and it went well. They could tell I knew what I was doing. And they asked me a ton of questions. I really don't remember that very much. I remember the audition a little bit. But dang, yeah, so that was a long time ago. But then I got into school, and I was there for basically a year. But I got so busy teaching because that Carrie kept adding students and kept adding days to my schedule. So I started out teaching Tuesdays, and I ended up teaching Mondays and Tuesdays, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings. So I had a really full schedule. I had 40 students when I quit to move to California. And that was a big decision because I was making decent money, and I was going to California to make 0 money. But yeah, no, definitely. Gas is a lot more expensive in Europe, and it's only going to get more expensive in the coming years. But I'm not a peak oil guy, though. I don't think oil's going to run out. I don't think they'll ever run out of oil. In fact, I kind of speculate that oil doesn't take as in the ground, crude doesn't take as long as they think it takes in the ground. Oh, millions of years. I'm like, I don't think so. So some scientists are saying that actually it regenerates and creates itself very quickly. Yeah, going to California. I did learn that song, but I think I learned it after I got to California. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. The crude stuff. Concert triangulist, yeah. Is that what you're teaching? So I actually ended up at Butler for a year, and then I got in the jazz band, and I started taking classical guitar lessons. Actually, the funny thing was in junior high, there was a guitar player that was a year ahead of me. So when I was in 7th grade, he was in 8th grade. He was really good. His name was Bill Baker. And he was better than me, and he was a year ahead of me. And so he got in the jazz band and junior high jazz band. So I didn't get to be in the junior high jazz band until Bill went to high school in 10th grade. In my school, junior high was 7 through 9, and high school was 10 through 12. It's kind of weird, but that's how it was at the time. Not that way anymore at the same school, but. So Bill was in the band for 2 years. Well, I was, and I didn't get to be in the big band or jazz band until I was in 9th grade. So in 9th grade, I got to be in jazz band. Great. I get to high school. Well, of course, who's there? Bill Baker's there. I'm there a sophomore. He's there a junior, and of course, he's in the big band. And I don't get to be in the big band again because they only need one guitar player. Today, they would have had both of us in there. That would, which is kind of lame because okay, you play on this song and you play on that song. So half the time you're just sitting there not playing. The other half the time you're both one of these playing. So, it's. But anyway, it was fine. And then when I got to be a senior, I got to be in the jazz band. So when I was a senior at North Central, I was in the jazz band. So because Bill moved on, well, I went to Butler, and who was at Butler? Bill Baker, and I'm like, dang it. But he was not majoring in music. He was like a business major or an English major or something. He did not major in music, and I was there as a music major. And we both auditioned for the big band, and he did it the year before. But then I got it that year, and if I remember correctly, it was because they gave it to me, even though Bill was better at it. They gave it to me because he knew the job. and I did fine. But they gave it to me because I was a music major, so they were kind of more obligated to give it. And were not many rock jazz guitar players at Butler. There were a few classical players. I mean, there was enough for them to have a classical professor there, but not a whole lot of classical guitar players, which is kind of a odd. Cat hairs. See, I think the cat slept on this. She sheds. Classical guitars. That's a tough profession. To find enough work at that. So, drop D. Oh, going to California's drop D. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I saw this bit on TikTok. This guy says I posted an ad on Craigslist in the local paper, wanted a wife, and he got hundreds of responses, all with the same answer. He said, "You can have mine." It's funny. It's like total. Everyone's going, full Henny Youngman. Take my wife, please. So, all right. What is else going on? Well, you know what? I'm probably going to sign off. I'm going to lunch. I'm taking my friend to lunch. His wife passed away last year. And with COVID and everything, his socialization's kind of going out the, down the crapper or whatever. So I told him I'd take him out. And coincidentally, restaurants have started to open back up again. And I think out by where he lives, he's technically in Orange County. They're much more open than LA County. So I'm sure we'll be able to find a restaurant we can sit in. If not, we'll just get food to go and go somewhere. But he's a good friend. I toured. He's a very good gospel singer. We toured Japan together, and we had so much fun. We had a blast. He's a really nice guy, and I played on a bunch of his records too. So through the years, he's hired me to do stuff. And that may happen again. I don't, it's neither here nor there. That's not why I'm taking him to lunch. Not as a client, but as a friend. So, and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to work on a session for a friend of mine, his wife's record. They're from Ecuador, and she's the only person. She's won, I think, a couple Latin Grammys. She's the only Ecuadorian to ever win a Grammy. And because of that, they actually became friends with the president of the country. At the time, he would fly them down to Ecuador to do concerts and things like that. And it was kind of cool, They got treated really, really nice. Struggling. So you have a curfew from 20. Still, gosh, man, I saw the protests too. Unbelievable and totally understandable. It's just like. Yeah, and here's the problem with closing things. California did the same thing. They said, everything's got to be closed at 10 o'clock. I've not known anybody to get arrested of being out, like driving somewhere at night or walking at night. I've never heard of anyone in California, LA in particular, getting arrested. The cops are kind of not. They've even told me. I've talked to cops, and they're like, yeah, no, we're not enforcing any of this garbage. However, health inspectors are. So they're the ones that are going around to the restaurants and giving them grief. And I'm like, there was a restaurant I think it was in Whittier, that the health inspector showed up and fined like $1,500 to the restaurant for having outdoor dining, and he didn't. There were no tables set up, but there was someone sitting on the bus stop eating food in front of his restaurant. And the food wasn't even purchased at his restaurant. He was like, are you kidding? You're fining me because he's sitting there? What am I supposed to do? Go tell him to move? It's like, that's a public park bench. That's a public bus stop. And so the restaurant owner actually literally parked his big truck behind the health inspector's car so he couldn't get out of his parking space, and said, look, if I can't go to work, you can't go to work. Kind of turned into this big thing. But I totally agree with that. It's like, oh my gosh. But part of the problem with closing Walmart and grocery stores at 10 o'clock at night is all you're doing is you're clustering people. You're going to have a lot more people at 9 o'clock going to the store and getting exposed to COVID than you would if you left the place. You should mandate that everything stays open 24/7. Two purposes. One, it would spread out the time when people are going to potentially be exposed. And you could time, if you're really, really concerned, you could go to the store at 1 in the morning and you'd know that there'd hardly be anyone in there. And the other thing is it would be a kind of a job stimulus of sorts. So the problem is they never ask me what I think. but so often their remedies are the actual opposite of what should be done. Yes, I agree, Dennis, 100%. Protesting is totally fine, but tearing stuff up is not. And so that's often instigated by just a few who have no interest in protesting, just have interest in destruction. And they may not even have a political interest in destruction. They may just have destruction on their mind. They're the same people that, tortured little woodland creatures. They're the same people that troll, Justin Bieber fans on the internet. And then they grow up and they want to keep destroying things. So yeah, and here's the thing about COVID, Holly, too. It will generally. I mean, when I had it, I'm pretty sure I had it way back in March. It was for me, it was a lower intestinal thing, and I had a fever. I had, and for me, it was a low grade fever. It's like 99, but when I have a low grade fever, I feel pretty crappy, and because normally I'm running around 97, and I had. Like lethargic for a whole week. I thought I had anemia again because I was anemic and I take iron pills every day. And I thought I was anemic and because I recognized the feeling, but I was like, I'm taking my iron pills. So I double dosed my iron pills thinking, oh, maybe that's what's the problem. And it didn't help. I wake up like I felt like I hadn't slept all night every morning. It was awful. And then the other thing I had was fizzing, that was a description that came along later. But I felt like in my lungs, I felt like I was nervous, like I was about to give a speech, and I had anxiety, which is another symptom. And so, later people were tweeting, oh, the symptom was fizzing. Okay, thank you, appreciate that, Bruce. And here's the thing, Holly, your nephew. Your ex-nephew, I guess. It sounded like because he's dead, he's ex. No, he's dead. I mean, he's ex because he's the nephew of your ex-husband. That's what I meant by ex-nephew. It just sounds so coarse. But you don't know what your weakness is a lot of times, right? Like, how many times do people die suddenly of a heart attack only to find out, they had never had an issue, and then they do an autopsy and they go, oh yeah, he had a weak blah blah blah. This valve has never worked in his whole life. It should, he should have died when he was 12, kind of thing. So COVID seems to find, and it's probably just because it goes everywhere, but it seems to find that weak link. And that weakness that you may not even know that you have in your body, and exploits the crud out of it. So that's why it's just randomly, some people will have, because they're very healthy, they will have nothing, no symptoms at all. And then there are other people that will, that have, and then they're completely healthy, or so they think, and suddenly they just, boom, they're just dead. It goes after. Our second son Jack has lung issues, and so we're cautious with him. He works from home. His girlfriend works from home, so they're very cautious about exposing himself to that, because he's only got about 55% lung capacity. So, but yeah, it's totally serious. We'll see if they're, with the protests in Europe, all over Europe right now, and it's not just Holland, it's everywhere, Germany and England and stuff. We'll see if there's spikes because of the close contact that people are having. But Yeah, Bob, maybe, but you know, my mother-in-law had it. She was 84 and she was nauseous for 2 weeks, and now she's totally fine. And my friend, his mom got it, and she's 93, and she had a headache for 2 days, and that was it, and then she was fine. So she's, you know, so in some ways, and you, like I said, you may have already had it, and not know it. I don't know if you've had the antibody test, but and I should probably get the antibody test. I've been exposed to it. In fact, that's the big drag right now is that stupid contact tracing, because you get exposed to it. Somebody calls you and they go, "Oh, I got it." You know, now you have information that you have to, like, shoot. Okay, I got exposed to it, so now you know, you could contact trace 15 people or more out of work for 2 weeks. And it's just ridiculous. It's like, oh gosh. So you have to take 2 weeks off from work waiting for, yeah, hydroxychloroquine has been, I have a friend that said that that's exactly what he's a ER doctor, and that's what he prescribes. And it seems to really help. The death rate is much lower in India, where they're pretty much all take hydroxychloroquine because of malaria. And the death rates in Africa have been very low, and there's a huge, and I'm talking about on a per capita thing. And in Africa, there's a huge, hydroxychloroquine is a very big factor there, because everybody, you know, it's one of the things you have to take, I think, if you go to Africa, right? I've not been to Africa, but it's kind of one of those things where you have to, hey, Joseph, what's going on? I'm getting ready to sign off. Sorry. I'm taking a last sip of coffee. I've got to go take my friend to lunch. His wife died. She did not die of COVID. She'd been struggling with health issues for a very long time, and she finally succumbed to those. So, yeah, isolation is normal for you, Holly. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I work from home, so I'm very rarely exposed. So at church on the weekends, but even then we're all masked up, so it's, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know the masks help or anything. People that wear masks all the time get COVID. And people never leave their house get COVID. So I'm not sure how that works, but it's weird. So yes, Catherine, work harder at that lab. Figure that out. There's going to be a lot of things we're going to learn about that. There's going to be some fascinating books written in about 10 years on all sorts of things. But it's still 99.97% survivable, and that's if you get it. The reinfection rate is 1 in 38 million, which is 3.5 times. It's more likely that in your lifetime that you'll die in a plane crash than you'll get reinfected with COVID. So. So I wouldn't be, and that's just reinfected. That's not dying from a reinfection. That's just being reinfected. Now, the very, very few people, and I think it's 24, 20, 30, under 30 people have been reinfected. Only one died, and she was 89, and most of them, they were worse. It was a worse case for them. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot to learn. But I wouldn't worry about almost if you get it, it's better. Even I think Merck stopped developing their vaccine because they said it's better just to get it and have immunity than to get the vaccine. I mean, I have friends who get the vaccine and doctors are telling them, you know, and nurses are telling them basically plan on taking 2 days off from work for each of the 2 vaccines because you're not going to feel like working the day after or the day after that. And that's been true. One friend she just threw up nonstop the second day. It was like, oh. So anyway, okay, we got more people now than before. It's crazy. It's funny. So go back and watch the video. You can learn about these triads. We're going to talk about them more on Wednesday. I'm not sure if I'll have a song. I may do a song. We'll see. I may do a song that kind of uses these a little bit or uses them in transition or combines the things. But I've got to go take my friend to lunch. Okay. So I'll talk to you soon. God bless. We have 52 weeks climbing now. Hilarious. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.